Before the story begins, know this. Humanity survives behind a fading wall of power, while beyond it waits the red mist, demons, and the tower. This is the story of one man who went too close. Tilan Meka came across a demon. Normally, such a thing would elicit gasps of shock at a gathering. In a tavern, perhaps, or some noble's ball. Some wives would tremble and press themselves to their husbands' sides at such a beginning to a tale, and the husbands would hold them close, a look of divine envy etched upon their faces. For all admire the heroes who meet demons and live. Many swoon over those who can hold their ground against a demon, and if you have a scar to show for it, it's even better. So some people, well, many people, dream about meeting a demon and living to tell the tale. Not a tower demon or a tower servant, just the regular, good old, casual demons that roam within the red mist, sometimes daring to venture forward and push the mist farther, pressing mankind into one part of the continent. Pressing, ever pressing. Killing just one was enough to give a person's life a sense of meaning, a feeling of good that you've aided mankind somehow, given your race, those who resemble you and can fathom as you, a taste of vengeance. Just a taste. Not enough to scour the hunger that's burrowed deep into humanity's psyche, but a taste nonetheless. To one with hunger, that is everything. But the reality was this: if one encounters a demon, one will not live to tell the tale. Sure, there are those who have survived with some narrowly missing death in a fight for survival, others by a stroke of luck. But they are so few and so scattered, a mere drop in the tide of all those who have perished before demons. Unless you were blessed, of course. But the blessed were of a different caliber, not to be compared to the normal man, though normal men they once were. They still fell sometimes, not as easily as the common man, but they still fell. When Tilan Meka felt a deep dread creep over him, flexing across his body to grip at his heart and send a chill dancing upon his spine, he immediately knew something was amiss. He paused his march through the forest and looked about. When he saw the demon, his first instinct was to remain standing still. There, amidst the trees of the forest bordering the red mist wall, to the distant south where few dared to venture, so far from the grand city where protection was guaranteed. The wind whispered through the trees, ruffling leaves, tickling branches. Tilan stood, 1 foot before the other, arms held out wide. His right hand was too far from the blessed blade of C-rank strapped to his side. He knew he should have been walking with the blade unsheathed, but the blue glow it emitted from just being a C-rank blade tended to draw the eye. And in the forest, where no man dared trod alone unless blessed, such a thing as invisibility could determine if one lived or died. From the look of the demon standing several feet away with its back turned to him, it might not have realized he was there. It was by sheer luck that he was downwind, his scent masked by the banished angel's grace. Was his faith enough to save him? The demon looked to be of a sort Tilan had heard of before. It looked feminine, with a green dress that hung from the waist and a laced bra whose golden weave crossed across its back. At first glance, he had thought it was another human, but then he had seen the horns, jutting from the scalp of dark hair, rising in a wave and twirl that ended in twin sharp points. Its skin was reminiscent of the moon's luminous glow. Tilan held his breath. He had to determine a course of action. Retreating meant making a sound, and that would draw the demon's gaze, immediately throwing him into the defensive. He had one chance. He could rush the demon, but he wasn't certain his blade was of a rank that could handle such a demon with humanoid features. The closer they are to looking human, the more powerful they are. It was well known.
Banished angel, why the hell did I leave Grand City?
He knew the answer even as the thought crossed his mind. There was no way he could live there, not without answers. And the only way he could find answers was beyond the ether wall that rivaled the red mist. The ether wall, set up by the founders and maintained by the blessed graduates, was the only thing keeping away the demons. Though each day the wall shrank, minuscule, diminishing in power, but still enough to make everyone aware that the only thing standing between life and death was slowly fading. The red mist was just too powerful. There was a voice that spoke to him in his dreams, urging him to leave his abode, to go as close to the red mist as possible. There was something there. The founder Oles had had such a dream over 2 centuries ago, when there was no Ether Wall or blessed graduates or founders. When the red mist had sprouted at the furthest corner of the continent, slowly building, negligible at first, until finally dangerous when half the continent was engulfed in it. Oles had dreamt of a path through the wilderness into the red mist. It was there that he knew there would be something he could find that would help mankind, who were losing the war with hundreds of thousands dying within a day, the demons emerging to shed blood and feast while pushing the red mist deeper into human settlements. Oles gathered 6 of the most capable, and together they had become the 7 founders. They had ventured into the red mist, believing in the dream of an honorable man. For a year, no one had heard from them. It was believed they had died. But then 2 had returned. Oles and Kidra both changed, both filled with the power of the banished angel and her story. One they hammered into society as they built the academy, where they taught how to harness the power of the banished angel. A gift of mercy from one who could not stand to see mankind suffer. A gift that granted mankind the blessed graduates, those with the power to fight back the demons, mankind's sole weapon against extinction. But now he was within sight of a demon. For the past week, he had been dreading this exact moment. Sure, he had fought in the Declaration battle, seeing just a glimpse of combat when a tower demon dared assail the Ether Wall. It was brutal, to say the least. 200 blessed graduates had died against the tower demon, and hundreds of thousands of equipped infantry against its minions. And when humanity was about to break, the demon had retreated with a parting remark, entwined with its laugh.
I declare I am the basement demon. This was just an introduction, a test to see how you fare against the weakest of the tower.
The basement demon, the weakest of the tower demons, had nearly leveled an entire army and cohort of blessed graduates. The message was clear. We were only alive because the demons allowed it. But a time would come when they would draw the knife and shed our blood, when the red mist would surround the continent and mankind would be a whisper, a memory. That laugh echoed in his mind all these years later. That laugh was unforgettable. It drove him to rage. Tilan abruptly gripped the hilt of his C-rank blessed blade. Drawing it, his face was bathed in a soft blue glow. The demon still stood, facing away. Tilan charged. Feet hit the ground, crunching branches and dried leaves. His eyes were alight with need, his purpose forgotten. The enemy before him, his only respite against the cruel hand life had dealt humanity. He closed 7 feet away, 5, 4. He launched into the air, twisting and shooting his armed hand forward, a grin on his lips as the blade inched towards his target's nape as he plummeted towards the demon. The demon moved. That was all, just moved. And the next thing Tilan knew, he was hurled across the glade, bouncing once against the ground, rolling onto his back, feet in the air before colliding with a tree and bouncing off it to lie on the ground.
Fucking demons.
He had no chance. He had failed the Ether test. He hadn't had enough in his stats to warrant becoming a blessed initiate. Yet as he lay there, hearing the demon's footsteps draw near, he wondered why this had to be so. Was there no respite for those damned?
What's funny, human?
Get on with it and kill me already.
Why would I do that? I mean, I am going to kill you, but that will be months from now. I like my meat fresh and alive. Curve up here. You can survive without a lower jaw. The neck is my favorite part. I'll have to eat it last. Can't afford to kill you. Ruins the meat. I love live meat. Blood pumping.
Tilan lunged, twisting and thrusting simultaneously, aiming for that point at her neck.
Decapitation, it's the sure way.
The demon gripped his wrist, twisted and crushed it. He dropped his blade, letting out a yell of anguish.
I love that sound. Music, yes. Is this what humans delight in? Sound. Sing for me. My such beauty in a scream makes me feel hungry. So hungry. Maybe I'll just start with the neck now.
The demon turned his head, exposing his neck, Then her face descended on him. Her tongue flicked across the naked skin of his neck. Where her saliva touched, it burned and fizzled. He should never have ventured into the forest, so far from Grand City, so close to the red mist. Abruptly, her tongue and mouth retreated. He turned to see her staring at her chest, a puzzled look on her face. A spearhead, large and glowing green, erupted from her chest. Then abruptly, the demon was yanked away from him. Tilan gawked with wonder, noticing that the spear ended in a fluid green rope that branched off into the depths of the forest. Someone was at the other end of that rope, pulling.
A blessed graduate.
Then she was pulled into the forest. She laughed as she was dragged away from him, a manic sound that told of her rage at being denied a meal. Tilan watched as she diminished from sight. Water, he thought as his neck stung, the demon's saliva working into his flesh. He needed to wash the wound with water lest it be too late. The blood river that came from the mountains down south where the red mist was thickest flowed not far from where he was. But Tilan had no other choice. He gingerly picked himself off the ground, staggering at first before finding his footing. A thin sweat sheathed his face, a trembling seized his limbs. A cold chill engulfed him. The beginning of demon fever, he had to reach the water. Every step felt like torture. His arm hung limp beside him with the burning wrist. His chest hurt when he breathed. He limped and groaned with pain, but he pushed himself nonetheless. He could hear the water now, a gentle rush, as it was still the dry season. He quickened his pace, limping all the while. He saw the water and rushed until he was knee-deep in the inner bank of the river. He lowered himself and took several mouthfuls of water, then started lapping the water across his torn neck, making sure to rub as much water into it as possible despite the stinging pain. As he stood there, he realized he could see it, just several miles south. A red wall rose high into the sky, towering over trees, blocking the land beyond and the mountain ranges completely from sight. He recalled her touch upon his jaw and shivered. He had to return and go back to Grand City, back to his simple life as a retired equipped infantry, back to the hopelessness. Just as he was done scrubbing the wound on his neck, he saw it. At first, he thought it a demon and plunged himself into the water, only his eyes and head breaking the surface. Then he realized that the object he was seeing was too small to be a demon. It floated upon the river's gentle current. It looked like a wooden box, just large enough to be straddled with both arms. He watched it drawing near, a look of unease twisting his mouth. He wanted it to float past him, for it to go down river and be someone else's problem. But then he heard her voice in this waking moment. He had never heard her elsewhere besides in his dreams.
Get him.
Him?
The cold river played a role in numbing his pain. He pushed himself, despite the pain of his broken wrist, ribs, and possible leg fracture. He kicked as best he could and managed to grasp a segment of the wooden box before pulling it to himself. Dragging the box out of the water was harder than he thought, but he managed, all the while wincing and grunting. He dragged the box to the shore and collapsed beside it. Dripping, tired, and very much in a state of shock, he observed the box. It was made of a rare sort of wood that used to be common in the olden days, before the red mist ensured mankind couldn't go near where the trees that gifted the wood grew. It was impossible to come across darkwood in this day and age. It was as rare as seeing a sorcerer. There were holes dug into the darkwood box's lid. With a trembling hand, he unclasped several latches holding the lid, then pulled it free to reveal its hollow depth. Within it, cradled in what appeared to be the skin from an animal that Tilan did not recognize, lay a child. Tilan stared at the baby, thinking it odd and not quite sure what he was seeing. There were twin dark tendrils creeping across the child's pale skin, sliding across the child's neck, past its chin to either side of its face, to touch the base of its eyes. It was reminiscent of a demon. But it was strange. Demons did not give birth. There were no infant demons, and the child resembled a human save for that darkness. Slowly, he peeled back the layer of skin cloth the child was wrapped in. The darkness was thicker upon the chest, save for one small part right in the middle where there was a soft golden glow amidst the darkness. The child opened its eyes, and Tilan saw that it had no whites but darkness, with irises that glowed golden. It was like a demon, except that demons had a clear red glow, not golden. Tilan stared at the child for a span of moments, wondering where it came from. Tilan knew that if he returned with this child, it would be immediately killed. They would claim it was demon-cursed. Yet he understood, somewhat, what role he was to play just by being in the child's presence. He felt that hopelessness, the one that had begun and settled with the declaration battle. He felt it fade away, replaced by something else, hope. A hope without basis or reason or promise, but hope nonetheless. With his one working hand, he returned the lid onto the box, sealing the child within. Then, surprised at finding a handle jutting from the box's side, he raised it with visible effort and started making his way back from whence he had come.